Hello, welcome back to another dynamic English class. Happy Friday to all of you. I hope you are all safe at home, abiding by the quarantine or the lockdown. So today, as it says in the title, we are going to talk about gerunds versus infinitives. It's a question we get quite a bit here at Dynamic English. So we're just going to take a little while today to maybe explain the difference and how they're used. There seems to be a lot of confusion sometimes between gerund and infinitive because sometimes we can use both the gerund or the infinitive. So without further ado, let me continue and explain what is a gerund. Okay, so a gerund is any verb ending in ing, right? So the ing ending is going to give us a gerund. I have my notes here between tablet and phone, so forgive me. But basically, a gerund is a verb in its ing or present participle form that functions as a noun, all right? Really important. Functions as a noun that names an activity rather than a person or a thing. Any action verb can be a gerund. So whenever we're talking about gerunds, I want to really quick point out some spelling mistakes. If the verb ends with a Y, right, or a K, we just put ing. Playing, crying, barking, the dog was barking. For verbs that end in E, remember we're going to need to remove the E and just place an ing. So ride, as a gerund, would become riding. For a verb whose last syllable is written with a consonant vowel consonant and is stressed, then we're going to double that last letter. So beg, for example, begging, the dog was begging for food. So I want to really quick just express when we use gerunds, okay? Because there's three examples of when we use a gerund. So it's going to be after certain verbs, all right? Not all verbs, it's certain verbs. We use gerunds instead of a noun, okay? So en vez de un sustantivo. And we use gerunds after prepositions. So I'm going to give you some examples. So remember, the gerunds are the ing. So if I say, I enjoy reading, okay? My first verb there in that example is enjoy. So my second verb, reading, is going to need to be in the gerund form, the ing. My first verb stayed in the infinitive, I enjoy, and my second is going to need to be as a gerund. Now notice, I said at the beginning of the class that we're going to have three different examples. So today we're going to talk about gerunds, the infinitive using to, and what we call a base infinitive. All right, so the base infinitive is just going to be the verb without the word to, and I'll give you some examples. So just to recap, gerunds ending in ing, we use after certain verbs, instead of a noun, or after prepositions. So I've got my notes here. I'm going to give you some examples. So remember I said I enjoy reading. I can also use that for others. She enjoys reading. They enjoy reading. You will enjoy reading our blog post, for example. So all of those, because my first verb is infinitive, my second verb is going to be gerund. So I said the first example of when we use a gerund is after certain verbs. So I'm going to give you some examples of some of those verbs, and hopefully we can move along. So some of the most common verbs that we're going to use a gerund after are discuss. Okay. We discussed taking a trip before the pandemic started. Dislike, right? I dislike singing in the shower. I don't sing in the shower. I dislike it. It's not for me. Finish, all right. We finished working on the exercise. We finished working on our homework. To mind. So I could say, I don't mind walking to the supermarket. It doesn't bother me. I like to walk. So I don't mind. So notice even with the negative, if my first verb stays infinitive, even if it's a base infinitive, then my second verb is usually going to indicate the action. Some other examples would be suggest. Yeah. She suggested moving to another part of the city. Recommend. Yeah. My friend recommended eating in this restaurant. Keep is another example. I hope that you keep studying English and that you keep practicing. So notice that my first verb, keep, base infinitive, second verb, gerund. And the last example I'll give is avoid. We avoided taking public transportation because of the pandemic. So those are some of the verbs, and if you want, I would definitely recommend to look some more up. But keep in mind, if your first verb is that base infinitive, your second will be a gerund. So I said the second example of when we use a gerund is instead of a noun, all right? So what I mean by that, instead of a noun or as the subject of a sentence. So I'll give you a few examples. Swimming is fun. Okay, so the subject of that sentence is swimming. That's a gerund. We're talking about swimming. So in this case, that replaces a noun. There is no noun in that. Swimming is, well, that's a verb, and fun, that's an adjective. So notice in that sentence, there's no noun, right? So in this case, the gerund will replace the noun. Another example maybe be running is good exercise, according to some people. According to me, no, never. But running, yeah? We have running is good exercise. So again, we have several verbs and an adjective good, but there's no noun there. But the subject is running. Another example might be smoking is not allowed, right? So again, you see there's no noun in that sentence, but the idea is complete because the gerund replaced the noun. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And the third case where we're going to use a gerund is after prepositions. Okay, so if I say to you, brush your teeth after eating, all right, I'm talking about the action of eating. That was an action, but you see there that I put it after. Brush your teeth after eating. So the preposition there is after. My gerund is eating. Another example maybe be I drank, so I have a past tense verb, a glass of juice before leaving. Okay? So I want you to understand that any action verb can be a gerund. They're the same. Yeah? Any action verb or any gerund can be an action verb. Any action verb can be a gerund. So that's the examples of when we use a gerund. I'm going to give you a few more examples. When it's used as a subject, for example, jogging is a hobby of mine. No, it's not. Daniel quit smoking a year ago. So you see there, we're replacing the noun. I look forward to helping you learn English. Again, after I said after a certain verb, avoid, Paul avoids using chemicals on the vegetables in his garden. Some people prefer to get up early in the morning. So let's see. So I hope that's clear, that a gerund is the ing ending. So that's when we're going to use those. And if you have, I can read comments. They're a little delayed by about 30 seconds, but if you have questions, be sure to write in your questions while we're doing this. All right, so moving on, the second point that we're going to talk about is to plus the infinitive verb. All right, we call this basically just the infinitive. So again, we're going to use to plus the infinitive after certain verbs, after adjectives, and to express our purpose. Okay, so I'll repeat that. After certain verbs, after adjectives, and to express our purpose. So I'll give you some examples here. After certain verbs would be, maybe an example would be agree. Yeah. She agreed to go to the concert. Yeah. She agreed to attend the meeting. So notice that after that verb agree, I'm not going to use a gerund. Yeah. She agreed attending the concert? No. She agreed to attend. So some of these are just memorization. You're just going to need to sort of maybe make examples and remember that with certain verbs, we're going to use the gerund, and with some verbs, we're going to use the infinitive. Hi, Jesse. Hi. I didn't understand the first use of the gerund. So I'll go back and talk about the first use of the gerund. It's after certain verbs. So right now, let's continue with to and the infinitive. So the first verb, agree. The next one would be ask. Yeah, maybe she asked to help on the project. Okay. And notice with my first verb, it doesn't matter if it's in the past or the present. That second verb is usually going to follow the same rule. So help. Okay. Help is another example. If you want my help to, or if you want our help, I should say, if you want our help to learn English, contact us here at Dynamic English. Plan would be another example. The plan, hold on, let me think of an example for plan. I plan to travel whenever it is safe to travel again. So I plan. I hope, again, another example. I hope to travel. I hope to visit many places after quarantine ends. But because I have my pronoun and a base verb, I hope, my next verb is going to need to be the infinitive with to. So far, agree, ask, help, plan, hope, learn, right? Learn. Let me think. Learn is another example. Promise. I'm trying to think of an example for learn. Yeah, if I'm saying in the past, I learned to paint in art class. There we go. Maybe you learned to speak English with Dynamic English. Promise is another example after certain verbs. So I promise to always teach you English to the best of my ability. So notice, I promise, and then that next verb is to teach. So infinitive with to. So really quick, let's just go through a few more examples. Want. I want to learn Portuguese. Yeah. She wants to go to the concert. So if I've got that want, my next verb is going to be infinitive with to. And my last example is going to be would like. Yeah. I would like to leave my apartment. Unfortunately, in these times, it's better to stay at home. So would like. If you see that phrase, that conditional verb, then you're going to always use to plus the infinitive. And finally, to plus the infinitive we use for purpose. So if I say to you, I moved, okay, so my first verb, move, to Chile to teach English, all right? So I'm going to include the to. I'm not going to say for. So make sure you don't make that mistake, because a lot of Spanish speakers will make that mistake and say, I moved to Chile for teach English. So in English, for our purpose, we're going to use the verb with to. She went to London to study English. He moved to New York to work at a new job, right? So that's the purpose. So anytime we're talking about the purpose, you're always going to include the to plus the infinitive. All right, and then third, I want to talk about what we call the base infinitive. And I see a few questions coming in. I'm going to answer your questions, so don't worry. The third example is the base infinitive. And what I mean by base infinitive is the verb just without that preposition to in front of it, all right? So we're going to use that after, most importantly, after modal verbs, okay? If you're not familiar with modal verbs, they're going to be can, could, should, would, can't, might, maybe, must. Those are modal or conditionals, all right? That's what we call them sometimes. Technically, they're modal verbs, but I call them conditionals because it's based on the condition. What if? If. So, an example might be, I can meet you at 6 o'clock. So notice that that first verb, can, that's a conditional or a modal verb. So whenever I have a modal verb, I'm not going to include the to. If I said, I can to meet you at 6 o'clock, it's not correct. We don't need to include that to. I can meet you. And I hear this one a lot. That's a mistake that many Spanish speakers make. I had a student just the other day say, we can to have the class, we can to have the class at 3 p.m. And we said, no. Can we have the class? So be careful with those modal verbs. So I could say, I live in Santiago, Chile, where it never rains. But you could say, it might rain. Okay? But because I'm using that modal verb of might, yeah, I'm not going to say it might to rain. No, just it might rain. So after modal verbs, we always are going to use our base infinitive. Be aware of that. There's a few other examples. After let, make, and sometimes help, all right? So I can say the teacher let us leave early, right? Our boss permitted us, our boss let us leave early, we could say as well. So notice there that let us to leave early. No. So that's, again, conditionals. Something that probably doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. We also use the base infinitive after some verbs of perception. So see, watch, hear, notice, feel, and sense. Okay. So if you are going to use a verb first, for example, I'll give you, I watched him walk away. All right? I'm not going to say I watched him to walk away. No, I watched him walk. So notice there that if it's verb, pronoun, then we're going to use base infinitive. And the last expression is sometimes used with questions, with why. Yeah? Why go to the beach if you are sick? Why go to the party if you are not feeling well? So with why and typically go, you're going to make sure that the next verb is just kept as the base infinitive, not the to plus infinitive. So basically, that's really the only difference. I know there was a question about gerunds at the beginning, so I'll just recap really quick. Gerunds are used after certain verbs, all right? So the gerund being the ing ending of a verb, and those certain verbs, some of them, this is not all of them, but the most common, are discuss, right? We discussed traveling to Spain. Dislike, yeah. I dislike eating cabbage, for example. I don't like cabbage. I finish, okay, finish, or finished in the past. I finished doing my homework. I finished making the pie. Mind is another example. She doesn't mind ironing the clothes. Suggest is another example. I suggest studying more English. So I hope that that's clear. I see some questions. I'm going to get to those in just a second. The other examples were recommend. I recommend studying English. Keep. Yeah. I keep seeing the same questions over and over. And avoid. Avoid was another example. So I avoid running if it's possible. I hate to run. So those were some of those examples. So let's see. No entiendo nada. Okay, so I'm going to start reading some of your questions here. Can I say, I hope traveling after quarantine? No. Sorry, I see Facundo Montenegro. Good question, but no. Because hope is one of those verbs. Remember, for to plus infinitive, we have agree, ask, help, plan, hope, learn, want, promise, and would like. So if you're going to use hope, then you're going to need to keep that as to plus infinitive. I hope to travel after quarantine. I hope to travel. So again, it's just kind of one of those things. You're going to need to maybe make a list, a side-by-side comparison, and say, okay, these verbs with the gerund, these verbs with to plus infinitive. And with time, you will understand more because it will sound correct to you. But no, I hope traveling, I can't say that. So when we say certain verbs, it really is just certain verbs. Because I want to point out there are many, many examples, right, where I can use both the gerund or to plus the infinitive, and it's the same exact idea. So for example, it started raining, okay, or it started to rain. That's the same exact thing. I just expressed the same exact idea. One of them using the gerund, one of them using to plus infinitive. But there's really no difference. The communication, what I communicated, is the exact same idea. So many examples. So I just have to say, I think sometimes Spanish speakers maybe gerund, that term confused them. It's used the same way as any action verb. It's ing. The idea, though, is that you just kind of remember the verbs that it's used with and the times. So after certain verbs, to replace a noun, or after prepositions. So if you can remember that, you're good. And I don't want anybody to be confused, because some people say, well, the gerund is the continuous. But keep in mind that with continuous, we use the verb to be and then the action verb ending in ing. That's the difference there. With this example, we don't have to use the verb to be. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So no, we cannot say, I hope traveling after quarantine. Alejandra, have you ever traveled to Peru? Yes, I have traveled to Peru a few times. So it's not okay to say, no. He moved to London to work there. So the question was, so it is not okay to say he moved to London for working there. No, to work. If you say for working, again, that's purpose. For example, a cellular phone is used for calling, for searching information, to search, to call, but no. What you said there, he moved to London to work. That's his purpose. So to plus the infinitive, always with the purpose. I don't understand. I'm sorry. I can say, I try studying English. No, I try studying English. You can say, I am trying to study English. So if that first verb is in gerund form, I am trying, your following verb is going to be to plus infinitive. I'm trying to study English, or I try to study. I try to study English. Yeah, so it depends. If we're talking about in this moment, I am trying, so again, to be plus the action verb, continuous form. But if you are talking in general, I try to study English. I try to study English every day. But again, you're going to keep that as to plus the infinitive. So I'm not saying, oh, no, there's some more questions. There we go. Is it correctly say, the goods are ready to delivery, or the goods are... Yeah, it's a good question. And I know I mentioned purpose, but the question says, is it correct to say, the goods are ready to delivery, or the goods are ready for delivery? The correct answer would be for. Everything for delivery. To deliver, okay, because again, that's to plus the infinitive verb. To deliver. But delivery, no, it would be for delivery. Sorry, Jesse, I'm a little dumb. When do we use the gerund? So again, the gerund is when we're talking about the action. So guys, I don't want you to be confused with gerund. This word, it confuses people. It just means that verb ends in ing. We're talking about the action. So a gerund is, or can be, an action verb as well. Okay. The only difference is that we have certain verbs: discuss, dislike, finish, mind, suggest, recommend, keep, and avoid, that we're going to use the gerund with. Okay. You're not dumb. Rodolfo Villalobos, you're not dumb. I couldn't write it. Teacher in linear. Sorry, I'm like, hey guys, I want everybody to know this class stays on YouTube. So even after we finish, this will be here. So you can go back to see the beginning of the class. No problem. You can pause, take notes. That's kind of the idea. And maybe some of the questions that you have here, somebody else will have later. So keep the questions coming. I don't see any questions right now, so I'm just going to take a quick moment to promote some of our other things that we have going on here at Dynamic English. In case you didn't know, I know some of you don't know, still, we have an Instagram account that we post daily tutorials, vocabulary, grammar, just a simple post where you can read and learn something, maybe learn a new vocabulary word. So definitely, if you're not following us on Instagram, go check us out. We also have a really great podcast called Coffee with Gringos that is on Spotify, Apple Music, basically anywhere you can get a podcast. Coffee with Gringos. Highly recommend listening to that. I have some students that do, and they love it. So, Instagram, Spotify, Coffee with Gringos, the podcast. And we are also offering right now group courses. So be sure to contact us soon, because I think the offer ends very soon. If you're interested in taking a group course, maybe you and some of your friends, or you and some people that you don't know, we will place you in the course based on your level. So maybe you'll have a course with a native teacher, but maybe 2 people in Peru, 1 person in Argentina, and 1 person in Mexico. But you'll all go online to the same chat room, to the same Zoom or Skype room, and have conversation. So if you're interested in that, definitely contact us. Due to the pandemic right now, unfortunately, we are going back into quarantine. So for the foreseeable future, Dynamic English will only have online classes. So if you also are in quarantine, take a moment, take some time maybe, take advantage of this opportunity to take some English classes. So that's all. That's all the promotions I'll do. So let me... yeah, okay, so I see a comment that I was all smiles on Instagram and a little more serious on YouTube. It really depends on the subject matter. This is a little more complicated to teach, I'm not going to lie. On Instagram this past Wednesday, it was a little bit easier of a class. The key is to be kind, or the key is being kind. Again, Nico, I see Nico Brantes. Good question. But again, that's what I say. There are many, many examples in English where both are correct. You are saying the same exact idea. The key is to be kind, or the key is being kind. You're expressing the same idea. So in one form, you use to plus the infinitive, and in the other, you use the gerund. So I don't want anybody to overthink this. It's not super complicated, because you're saying the same thing with both of those examples. So just like it started raining, or it started to rain. Same idea. So I see, can you say some example sentences using ing, please? Yeah. I can say, for example, my little brother. Okay, so I see for Gluba, I can say, for example, my little brother sing a song. Well, if you're referring to him, he, you would need to say my little brother sings with S. But yeah, you can say my little brother sings a song. Yeah. No problem there. The other question was, can you say some example sentences using ing, please? I'm not sure I understand that. I can give you some verbs, but ing, making, doing, saying, thinking, talking, teaching, looking, any verb. Every verb can be turned into an ing verb. So again, the spelling, I went over at the beginning of the class some of the spelling, but any example where we're talking about action, playing, starting, stopping, I don't know, broadcasting, any of those. How do you know when an idea is expressed in progressive tense or gerund? I guess it's a matter of So memory. Sebastian Hernandez, really great question. How do you know when an idea is expressed in progressive tense or gerund? I guess it's a matter of context mainly, but also memory. It is, guys, and that's where I would say maybe make a page where you say, okay, gerund is always going to follow these verbs: discuss, dislike, finish, mind, suggest, recommend, keep, avoid. Okay, so if you can just say that, okay, yeah. And then on the other, after certain verbs, to and an infinitive: agree, ask, help, hope, learn, promise, etc. So yeah, it all depends on context. Everything in English depends on the context, right? So another tip that I always try to express to my students is that you translate the idea, okay? We're not ever going to translate word for word. I'm working with prepositions with some of my students now, and they say, oh, but in Spanish it's they, it's they, it's they. Well, in English it could be of, it could be from, it could be since, so it's not a literal translation. So if you're still trying to literally translate, stop. It doesn't work. You can't do it. Can I say, I'm looking forward to watching the next class? Yes, you can. Perfect. I'm looking forward to watching the next class. Thanks. And I can say, I have to do homeworks. Yeah, so good question for Glubu. Homeworks with S doesn't exist. Homework, yeah, is already plural. Similar to people, we wouldn't say peoples. There are two peoples. No, there are two people. So homework is one of those things that is already plural that does not require the S. But yeah, I have to do homework. Hopefully, all of you are doing homework of some sort, because learning English is not just 1 hour per week or watching one series. It really is something that you should be involved in. It should be an activity that you're trying to do every day. We always say Rome was not built in a day, and you're not going to learn English in a day. So it's something that you should be practicing as much as you possibly can. And I thank you. I want to say thank you for joining me today on this class, because without you guys, we don't have a job. We have nothing to do. So it's really good that you guys are here. And hopefully you can watch this class again if you need to. But I'm gonna wrap up here in just a moment. I don't want to take too much of your afternoon. Unless you have questions. Wait, so if I say I like watching series or I like to watch series, it's exactly. So I said gerund, so I said dislike, but like is also one of those. I like watching. I like going. I like seeing my friends. I like visiting my grandma. I like walking the dog. So like is another one of those. After certain verbs, we're going to use the gerund. But yeah, exactly, Sebastian. The exact same. I like watching series or I like to watch series. Same thing. You're fine. Either way. Yeah, it says, but unfortunately not every word works both on infinitive and gerund. Yeah, and that's the thing. Guys, I would highly recommend, we have a blog post actually on our website. If you're interested in reading basically the same information but in Spanish, we have a blog post about gerund versus infinitive, if that maybe helps you to understand a little easier if it's in Spanish. But really, it does come down to memory. Sebastian, you're very correct that we just need to sort of memorize that with these verbs, it's a gerund. With these verbs, it's the infinitive or base infinitive if we're talking about modal verbs, remember. So, but yeah, good question. Excellent. So, guys, I'm going to not take up more of your time. We're about 40 minutes here. So, just really quick. Okay, sorry, I've got questions coming in. For Gluba, I can't say what you said. I'm going to see a movie. We're never going to put the word the in front of a base verb or an infinitive verb. We can have to see, yeah, or just see, but the see, no. The word the is never going to go in front of a verb. It's correct. I hate making mistakes when I'm writing in English. Yeah. Luisa, I hate making mistakes when I'm writing in English. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, so let's see, is there any other question? I don't see any other questions. Okay. So again, let me just recap. Gerund. After certain verbs, right? Instead of a noun, okay, and after prepositions. So we discussed traveling. Discuss is one of those certain verbs. I recommend that you look that up. Instead of a noun or as the subject, as I said, running is good exercise. That's the subject of the sentence, running. And after prepositions. So brush your teeth after eating. Yeah. So I want you to see too that what we're saying there, it's the idea. Yeah. Because if you said that, if you tried to translate that in Spanish, you wouldn't use that. You would say cepillar o lavar los dientes después de comer. You see what I'm saying? So because we use that preposition after, in English we're going to change that to the gerund form. Okay, so try and remember that. After a preposition, before a preposition. No, it's only after a preposition. Even if the preposition is before. So, I drank a glass of juice before leaving. Okay, so got the preposition, gerund form. To an infinitive. Second point was after certain verbs. Again, I recommend that you look those up. After adjectives. Okay, so happy. Yeah, I'm happy to see you. Right, you were right to join this class today. It would be wrong to leave the class early. You are lucky to have dynamic English available to teach you. So you see those adjectives, happy, right, wrong, lucky. You're going to keep that as to plus infinitive. Yeah, I'm lucky to have the job that I have. I love it. Yeah, and then purpose. Remember, so to work, I moved to Santiago to teach. So the reason or the purpose that I moved to Santiago, Chile was to teach you. Okay, so those are the three with to plus infinitive. And then remember that base infinitive after modal verbs. Pretty much that's one. So can, might, maybe. You're going to use base infinitive without the word to. So I see. You know, I'm gonna see about getting a blackboard so that I can write. It's just with this situation going on, it's difficult to find materials. We have to order everything, and then sometimes the delivery is not so fast. So we're gonna be resolving some things, if you will. Excellent. So I see some of your comments. Thank you. No, thank you guys. Really, thank you. So if you haven't already shared our YouTube channel with all of your friends, all of your family, then do so. We have some really, really good videos on this channel, not just the live classes, but maybe some of the other questions that you have. We probably have a video. So I'm going to let everyone enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and say goodbye. So from all of us here at Dynamic English, we hope you have a very safe and happy weekend, that you all stay safe. If you don't have to leave your house, if it's not absolutely necessary, then please stay home, stay safe, so that we can all get through this together, please. It has to end, please. So, excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. And I will see you next week. We will have another live class next week, so be sure to tune in then. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.